Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Patreon podcast. This week I wanted to talk about finding your priorities, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the last couple weeks of episodes that I've recorded, where I have been kind of struggling between like 4 different projects, and I really want to work on all of them, and I really want to finish all of them, but I also can't work at all of them at the same time because I don't have that ability to kind of juggle. I can't context switch very well when it comes to projects like that. So it's like sitting down and actually mindfully looking at everything that you want to do and figuring out what actually drives your passion right now versus what actually needs to get done if anything has a particular deadline. So in my case, like I really want to work on game development stuff, but I also know that I need to finish up other albums. I recently kind of pushed Infinity Loop out to distribution, but I still have to do Let the World Forget Us, and I still have to prepare for this November's album, and I have a lot of other things that I want to do when it relates to making music. But I also want to work on the How to Make a Song in 2 Hours book. And I also want to work on figuring out how to create, like how to manufacture a USB drive so I could start selling my discography like in a physical form. Like there's all these little things that I want to do, but I need to figure out what my priorities are when it comes to all of these and maybe organize them in kind of relevance and how important they are to finish right now. And some of that comes down to how easy, or not how easy, but how quickly you'll be able to finish something. Because if you can knock out a lot of the ones that are mostly complete or ones that don't take a lot of time, then you have so much more mental bandwidth for the ones that are going to take longer. Like I know Darkness Sleeps is definitely on its way to be completed, but there's still a lot of work left to do in order to actually finish it. So it's probably lower on the list. It might be a December thing or maybe even 2023. With the USB stick, now that it's getting a little colder out, I won't have as much time in the work shed, which is outside, and while it's insulated, this is also Minnesota, so it's not as insulated as it needs to be. So it's entirely possible that I might shelve that until next spring or summer, which is unfortunate, but it's also not something that's, really critical to my path as a creator. Like I would love to have that out there and I would love to be able to have it for sale, but I also want to make sure that when I make it correctly and that it's actually something that has, a good amount of value and I don't know, it's precious, I want to make sure that it's something that's not just a USB stick full of files. I want it to be like a small piece of like wooden art or whatever. I want to make it look interesting and unique. So that might get pushed off as well. And the November album challenge, like I can't change when that happens. So that's going to happen in November. So I have to be prepared for that. So like, where does that leave me when it comes to some other projects? Well, I have, I'm going to try to push out season 15 of the 2-Hour Track Challenge to distribution this month in October. And then next month in November, I'm going to be busy making an album. And then in December, I'll probably be busy finishing up that album and getting that prepared for distribution, while also probably focusing more on Let the World Forget Us and trying to get that ready to go as well. So you can kind of see my thought process where I go through all of these big tasks that I want to do. Oh, the book, I didn't even think of the book. So that's probably going to be this month in October and probably in November. I really wanted to finish the book this year, but it's probably not going to happen, but I can chip away at it. So the nice thing about the book is that it's broken into chapters, and each chapter, can be, at least sat down, and I can like hammer out a chapter every evening or something. And then, you can fix it up as time goes on. So there are options there when it comes to breaking apart other tasks. But like I said, I'm not very good at context switching. So it's like, if I want to work on something, I want to focus on that and I want to just, burn it down. Sorry, that's a video game term. When you're fighting a big boss, You want to burn down its health. I don't want to burn down the project. I like the project. Sorry. Anyway, I think like this kind of process, just kind of listing out everything you have and what you want to do with it and the limitations for that, like that's literally what I've needed to do for a while now. And now I have a better idea of how I'm going to approach and resolve all of these problems. I'm going to work on season 15 in the book this month. I'm going to work on the November album next month. In December, I'm going to be finishing up the November album and probably working on Let the World Forget Us. And then in January, February, I'm probably going to be finishing up Let the World Forget Us and working on the book. And then in March and April, it'll be warm enough out for me to start work on the USB drive again. And I'll be doing game development in the free time probably early next year. So it's like, even just sitting down and sorting this stuff out, like you get a better idea of how you can approach and segment your time in a meaningful way instead of just flailing around like I have been doing for the last month and a half. So it's important to do stuff like this, especially when you have a lot of things floating around. And like I mentioned last week, having a one-track mind is very dangerous. And things might change. I don't know. And if it does, then I can kind of recalibrate and I'll figure out what works and what doesn't on this process. And I can just do it again and have an idea of where I'm going to go from there. But yeah, I think that this is really valuable to be able to do. And it takes a while to figure it out. And especially because there's a lot of big projects that I want to do in the future, specifically game development ones. And I don't want to be jumping between big music projects and big game projects at the same time because I will go crazy. I know from experience. So like, it's good. It's good to take time to break things apart like that. So I think that is all I have to say for this episode. I hope that you found it interesting. And hopefully doing this process live was insightful to somebody out there. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter. I genuinely do appreciate it. I hope that you have a fantastic Friday and a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you in the next one. Be remarkable.